live from Columbia. This is WIS News 10 at 6. Live, local, now.
Right now at 6, the day finally here, Election Day. After months of campaigning, it all comes down to you, the voters. Throughout the day around the Midlands, we have seen long lines of voters making their voices heard at the ballot box. Thank you for joining us tonight on your News at 6. I'm Judy Gatson.
And I'm Alicia Barnes. Well, voters heading to the polls today are deciding on several big races. The biggest, the race for the White House.
Right here, the lines are amazing. The lines have been amazing. And I think we're going to have a great night. We're going to have a great night.
I believe the American people are showing up in droves. They're ready for change. They want to make their voices heard. And they're showing up in the middle of a pandemic, high unemployment, and they're determined to have their voices heard.
And back here at home, there are some hotly contested races on the ballots as well. And we have live team coverage to bring you the latest from the camps of Senator Lindsey Graham and his Democratic challenger, Jamie Harrison, and more. Judy.
A lot to come, but first at this hour, some people still in line waiting to vote here in the Palmetto State. Remember, as long as you are in line by 7 p.m., you will be allowed to vote. This morning, as polls opened, we saw long lines as voters waited to cast their ballot despite the early morning cold weather. And it was not all smooth sailing. More than 1,000 Dominion Energy customers were in the dark this morning in the Rosewood area. That did impact some polling locations like Rosewood Elementary, A.C. Moore Elementary, and Hand Middle School. Power was restored at Rosewood and A.C. Moore, and a generator was taken to Hand Middle School so that voting could continue, but power has since been restored there as well. Our Drew Ungst joins us live now from Chapin Town Hall. Drew, I know you guys have been making the rounds today, checking in on different locations around the Midlands. Bring us up to date on what it's like out there at this hour.
Well, Judy, the sun has gone down, but this line here at Chapin Town Hall has not. Moving maybe 5-10 feet since the last time we checked in. Voters still wrapping all the way around this parking lot, behind those cars over there, around the back of the parking lot, up the opposite side from where we are, then wrapping around Chapin Town Hall here. And that over there, what you're looking at right now, that's the entrance to Chapin Town Hall. That's where they will eventually enter and cast their ballots. Now, we did get some good news today. Representative Chip Huggins telling us that there are 2 more check-in machines being brought to this location to kind of alleviate some of this line, to help get people in there a little bit faster. Now, we talked to some of the voters here this evening. A lot of them in good spirits, telling us the weather has been good and that they're happy to be here, even if they have to wait in line for a few more hours. Take a listen. Did you expect to wait this long?
Not at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, but it's been an hour and a half at least since we got in line. The end of the line's right over there. So
I'm trying to stay positive. I mean, my husband was here before me. We were swapped off so he could watch the kids so I could come. So he was here after, I think, right about 2 hours. So just hoping to make it in that time or less.
And that's the message that we're hearing from a lot of voters, trying to stay positive. We've seen people sitting in chairs in line. We've seen people reading books in line. All of them telling us that they didn't expect a line like this in Chapin. Live in Chapin, Drew Ungst, WIS News 10.
All right, Drew, thank you so much. And while we saw a high voter turnout today, we've also seen a high number of absentee voters as well. In fact, election officials say it's been record-breaking, and it wasn't even close. Now, we received the final update on the number of absentee voters from election officials at around noon today. More than 1.3 million absentee ballots were issued. Most have been returned. Of that, 891,000 were in-person absentee voters, and this more than doubles the number of absentee voters in 2016, which was also a record-breaking year. Now, our Adam Mincer joins us live now from the Pastides Alumni Center. Adam, what are officials saying when it comes to the number of GOP voters coming out to vote right now?
Alicia, as Drew was saying, those lines today were long, and that is exactly what party leaders told me they were hoping to see today turn out. The top thing on both parties' minds, as well as enthusiasm, those voters that are willing to stick it out in the line, was exactly what they were hoping to see today. And so when I was talking to Republican leaders, they told me that they feel confident in their chances. They know that the majority of their party will turn out to vote today. They said that they feel good about the early numbers that they saw, but they're proud of what they say their turnout operation brought today.
This is the single biggest state Republican Party ground game we've had in the history of the Republican Party by a factor of 5, really. We're going to have the single biggest Republican voter turnout in the history of South Carolina today. That's my prediction.
And on the other side of the aisle, I've been also speaking to the Democratic Party. They've been telling me that they feel confident as well, and especially in the early voters, those early voters that came out in the days and the weeks before actual election day, they feel confident that a lot of those voters will end up supporting their candidates up and down the ballot. So they're paying close attention to all the races, looking at different trends that they can see between them. Now, I also spoke to Jamie Harrison just a short time ago in what has become such a closely watched Senate race. Jamie Harrison told me that he feels good about his chances. He says that he's been in politics for a minute. He understands that sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. He just hopes that his candidacy can inspire a new generation of people to run for office. Alicia, I'm going to send it back to you.
All right, and I'm going to pass it on over to Judy.
All right, Alicia and Adam, thank you both very much. Well, perhaps the most closely watched race in South Carolina is that for U.S. Senate. The polls for the race between South Carolina Senator Lindsey Graham and Democratic challenger Jamie Harrison have remained very tight. In fact, a recent poll from the Morning Consult shows Senator Graham leading Harrison, but just by 2 points. However, it is important to point out the margin of error in that poll is plus or minus 3%. So what does that mean? According to the poll, the race is a statistical tie.
I did it. I voted. I encourage you to vote. Democrats have done a really good job of early voting. So to my Republican friends, we have to show up in big numbers today to close the gap.
And we just heard that Republican officials believe that their voters are doing just that. But of course, polls don't decide the results. Voters do. And that's what the candidates are waiting to see. Our Greg Adeline joins our live team coverage now from the Pastides Alumni Center, where the Graham campaign will watch the election results tonight. Greg, what are you hearing on the ground?
Judy, you just mentioned it. Ultimately, what it comes down to are those hard numbers. Polls close across South Carolina in just under an hour from now. And you mentioned the polling, which has been neck and neck throughout this entire campaign. Lindsey Graham in the toughest fight of his senatorial career. Race that, if you believe that polling, is within several points. You mentioned the Morning Consult poll. But right now, Republican operatives and those within the Republican Party here and the Graham campaign feel as though if their base turns out to vote, that they will be able to win this race. We got to talk about the money, too, that has been pouring into this campaign. The race, again, very close, and as a result, millions upon millions of dollars have poured into this campaign. Much of that money from out of state. Jamie Harrison, the most well-funded candidate in U.S. Senate history, $120 million plus, a barrage of television ads that have made this race extremely close right now. Now, one thing to watch tonight is really what will happen in the presidential race here, because if you believe the polling, the president enjoys an advantage here. How big is that advantage is the question tonight. Whether or not he can break 50% here in the state of South Carolina. Can he go to 52, 53%? That's kind of a magic number that Republicans are looking for to see if he will in fact have coattails and be able to take Lindsey Graham across the finish line in this toughly fought Senate race. We are live here in Columbia at the GOP watch party at the Pastides Center. I'm Greg Adeline. Let's send it back to you.
All right, Greg, thanks so much for that breakdown. And as Lindsey Graham awaits for the polls to close and votes to be counted, his challenger, Jamie Harrison, will be just a few miles away doing the same thing. And that's where we find our Sam Blyweiss, who joins us live now. Sam, Real Clear Politics still has this race as a toss-up. So what's the energy like where you are? I hear the music playing in the background.
Oh yeah, the music is going, Alicia, and you're right, it's really starting to pick up here. This event will open at 7:30 for Jamie Harrison's closest supporters, his family and his friends. We're told it's going to be a pretty small event, but nonetheless, he is having this event here tonight. Now, you mentioned the statistical tie. That is definitely what we have seen in the past couple of polls, and it is something that both campaigns have been keeping a very close eye on as they cross the finish line of this race. I caught up with Jamie Harrison earlier today. He was going around actually Richland County precinct locations before he made his way to Florence. I caught up with him earlier today and just asked him How do you feel at this point in the campaign? Do you feel like you have done everything in your power to get this message of hope, as he calls it, a new era for South Carolina out to this electorate? Here's what he had to say.
Well, you know, if I had to go to the Hill today, it's to get a COVID relief bill. I mean, that really needs to be the thing that we focus our energy and efforts on. It breaks my heart to hear some of these small businesses and to get emails and notes from, you know, businesses and restaurants that my wife and I have gone to that have said that they've closed and they won't open again.
And look, this campaign for Jamie Harrison and both for Senator Lindsey Graham, it has really hinged on a couple of big topics. The major one, of course, being running this campaign amid the coronavirus. It has changed the way that Jamie Harrison had to run his campaign. As Greg noted, the barrage of ads on both television, in your inbox, in your email, and on digital as well. The big question is, will that turn out voters? Did that turn out voters today? Rather than the traditional knock on the door method. It'll be interesting to see as these numbers start to roll in, and we will of course continue to watch it live from right here in the Rosewood area of Columbia. I'm live in downtown Columbia. Sam Blyweiss, WIS News 10.
All right, Sam, thank you so much. All right, turning now to a check of your first alert forecast with Chief Meteorologist Demenis Brown. Demenis, it was a very chilly morning for voters today, so are these cold temperatures going to be sticking around?
Yeah, just for the night, I think. Overall, next few hours, we'll continue seeing these temperatures falling a bit more with mostly clear skies. You've already seen the 5 o'clock temperatures, 6 o'clock falling through the 50s here at about 7 o'clock. Really much the same with temperatures in the low to middle 50s across the area. And you'll see the numbers right now. Low 50s in Sumter and Bishopville, 54 in Camden. How about 50 for Saluda and 52 degrees in St. Matthews. Tonight, with mostly clear skies and pretty calm winds, these temperatures will continue to fall. The middle and upper 30s and a touch of 40 from time to time. So just a tad on the warmer side than this morning where we had temperatures below freezing in a few spots, but that 39 and yeah, it's going to still be cold. These morning temperatures will continue to climb as we go through at least your weekend. And we also need to talk about that chance of rain. Not right now on first alert radar. Things are all dry thanks to high pressure over to our west, so we will stay dry for tonight. But then we talk about the potential for some activity and rain coming from the tropics, potentially from Hurricane Ada. It's already made landfall over Central America with sustained winds at 140 miles an hour, and this moisture could track into our viewing area next week. We'll talk about it with your first alert 10-day forecast.
All right, Chief, thank you so much. Our Decision 2020 coverage continues. All eyes on several battleground states tonight and the race for the White House.